Hey friends, it's Becky L. McCoy, and this is Sucker Punched. Hey friends, this past weekend was the Brave Together virtual retreat, and it was so much fun. Oh my word, it was really incredible to get to make new friends, just totally in a virtual space in our PJs in our own homes, and just to kind of have the opportunity, you know, people had other things going on in their day, but they would join in with us when they could, and it was just really special. So I'm really excited to be able to do more of that in the future, and I'm excited for the events that my team is working on for 2018. If you missed it, don't worry. There's going to be an opportunity next week to get a digital version of it, so that you can listen and kind of catch up and join us in the Brave Together Facebook group to kind of catch up and get the gist and summary on everything that we did on Saturday. It was so fun. So now I'm going to share with you a conversation I had with my friend Elli. She writes about mental illness, specifically depression and anxiety, and just has a great story, lots of wisdom, and a really encouraging story to share about her own personal journey and why she's so passionate about writing for people who are struggling with depression and anxiety. So here's my conversation with Elli. I'm here today with Elli Johnson, and we're going to talk a little bit about your experience with mental illness, both as someone who has mental illness and someone who works with a lot of people and talks a lot about mental illness. So she just made a face. So why don't you let's just start with explain your diagnosis and your symptoms and how your experience may be similar or unique to others with the same diagnosis.
Okay, so stop me if this is too much, because I can go on. So I was actually diagnosed with postnatal depression after my third child, my boy, was born in 2009. I was 30. And as a result of that, I began to understand that actually I'd been suffering with depression, and more prevalent in my life than the depression was the anxiety. And I'd been suffering with that for, 10 years, but I just had never had a name for it. I'd probably had my first experience of a panic attack in my early 20s and didn't know what it was, thought I was just, I just thought that I was a really weak person because I wasn't able to cope with certain situations, and I didn't seem to be able to have there didn't seem to be a reason for them. Like I couldn't see a pattern in it, but I was sure it was my fault. So yeah, then I ended up through a whole host of different reasons and situations and circumstances, and then my husband basically forcing me going to see a therapist after my son was born, and she pretty quickly diagnosed me with postnatal depression. And then I still see her now, but I saw her very regularly for a number of years, and we talked more about depression and anxiety, and I think we both recognised that the postnatal part of it was definitely a factor, but it wasn't the whole deal.
Right, that's just kind of like what got you over the threshold.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what does depression and what does anxiety look like for you?
It all looks a bit like anxiety, if I'm honest. Anxiety for me, it's hard to remember what it was like before diagnosis because I'm so used to talking about it and how I deal with it now. But before diagnosis, it was I'd get very, 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 very anxious about certain events, about certain things that were coming up. When I was good, I would make lots of plans, which would be often. And then whatever it was I'd arranged to do would get nearer and nearer, and I would feel more and more overwhelmed by the thought that I was going to have to, I don't know, whatever it was, something stupid, go out for dinner or go to the theatre or make a long car journey or whatever, anywhere where I felt like I was going to be trapped and in public. So like a car, that would be trapped. I hated public transport for that reason. I didn't like crowds. But really, you wouldn't have known if you met me at all. I was amazing at covering it up. And I think I did a really good job at covering it up to myself for a long time as well.
Right.
But so there was, and then that would occasionally, I wouldn't be able to so I felt like a lot of my time I was just managing symptoms, managing my life, controlling my life, trying to make sure it didn't get out of hand. Towards the end of my 20s, when this had kind of ramped up and I had 2 kids and was very busy and trying to work and, trying to do everything, it became more obvious to my husband, I think, and he would get really, really annoyed with me because I would constantly be saying, are we ill? Are we going to be ill? Am I okay? Am I going to be ill? Was that food all right? Constantly, over everything. And it was mainly always centered around food and eating and like digestive problems. One of my sisters, I've got 3. One of my sisters has suffered really badly with IBS all the way through her 20s. And although I had always been totally fine in that regard, I was just paranoid about it. Anything that came up on the news, on the telly about anything to do with illness, but predominantly anything to do with stomach or digestive issues. That was just what I honed in on. I think you could probably, I've thought so much about why is that the thing?
Yeah, that's interesting.
And I don't know, I think people generally have a thing. If they worry about health, it's often one thing. And I think that there are lots of reasons. I think partly stories I was told growing up, partly being aware of my sister's struggle, and her health was really bad for like probably 10 years. She's great now. She's kind of like, I can't really eat cheese, but apart from that I'm fine. Right. And I think that looks on her life now, and I think, gosh, that was just stress. Like so much of that was stress. But I think especially in the faith tradition, you try and say like, well, it's this spiritual thing, or it's this unrepented sin, or it's this whatever. Yeah,
there has to be something to blame.
Obviously. and so that would be a big part of it, worrying about illness and about ill health. And then I think life just sort of got too much, really.
Yeah.
And I just ended up spending all my time managing myself, managing my thoughts about my health, managing my anxiety, that I had no capacity for anything else. So I could just about get through the day with the kids, with my 2 girls, but I didn't really enjoy it. And by the time my husband got home from work, I was pretty much a zombie. And although the routine of having the kids and having to get up and having to take them to school and having to do all that stuff was helpful to a certain extent, in fact, it was very helpful because it was the only thing that kept me going.
Yeah. I
was exhausted. I was absolutely exhausted because so much of my energy was going on to what was going on inside my own head and trying to maintain an impression of normality when all I felt like was a crazy loon.
Right.
It was all about, no, I'm fine. No, everything's fine. I could feel my jaw tension, as I was talking to people to try and come across as like a normal person who isn't like totally freaking out about everything. And I had literally no knowledge whatsoever of mental illness. Nothing. None. Didn't know anybody who suffered with mental illness. It wasn't talked about. Like compared to the climate now, things seemed like in my 20s, it just, maybe it was just the environment I was in, but just never discussed. And if it did, it was discussed as kind of like a weakness or like something that somebody should persevere through, or that there should be a reason, or it was very much a case of, if you suffer, then you're weak, then you haven't got enough strength to get through, then you're not a capable or a competent enough person. That's a bit off track now, but yeah, so those are the main ways. And then of course the panic attacks. which of course then gave me, I couldn't say, well, it's not just all in my head, because it's not just all in my head, I make myself sick, and and my heart rate rises through the roof, and I sweat, and I go bright red, and my stomach churns like a crazy thing, and I don't sleep, and so, all the times when I'd be saying to Matt, but am I ill? Am I going to be ill? He'd be like, no, you're not. You're fine. The food was fine. We're all fine. Like, the kids are fine. I'm fine. But I'd be like, yeah, but there was that other time when you said that, and then I was ill. And it's like, yeah, but you were ill because you had a panic attack. You weren't ill because of food. But, of course, we didn't know that then, and we didn't have words for it. So,
right.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Yeah. So was it really your husband who was able to help you see that what you were dealing with was not just like normal stress, or what kind of helped you realize that there's really something else happening here?
Yeah. Well, I didn't realize that at all until I had a diagnosis, I think. Not really. But there was 2 moments where I thought maybe something could help. Well, I saw I went to see a woman about a friend of mine who just lost her mum, and she was grieving, and I didn't know. She was in like the small group that I looked after in church, because I had ridiculous church responsibilities at the time. And, small children, that's a great combo. So I went to see this woman in the church, this older woman, to see if she could help me with my friend who was grieving, and she just kind of ignored my question, and when someone looks into your soul, it's like, and how are you? And I was like, whoa. This is before I had my 3rd child, and then after I had Ed, we went on holiday to France, and I had controlled the holiday so much. My husband had said to me, I really want to go abroad. I know you're scared to go abroad. I didn't want to travel. I know you're scared to go abroad. You choose the holiday. You choose where we go. You make it the holiday that you can cope with. So
to give people context, you live in the UK, so going to France isn't like a huge undertaking.
We live in Liverpool. It's not. It's like an hour and a half flight. It's like going from one state to another state.
Exactly.
And so we went to France on holiday, and we had a great time, and we booked this beautiful gîte in the Dordogne, and it was perfect and quiet and beautiful, and one night in the middle of all of it, we went out to this little food market, and for seemingly no reason, somewhere where I should have been really calm and really relaxed and everything else, had an enormous panic attack. And we drove home from this market, and I just really clearly remember we drove home, and there were these fields of sunflowers, and I was just looking out through the car window, 3 kids in the back, my husband next to me seething because I'd wrecked another evening out. Neither of us understood it. He wasn't big, he just didn't know. Looking out of the window and just crying and crying and crying, and thinking, gosh, what is wrong with me? Why? And I think at that point there was a bit of maybe there's a pattern here, maybe this isn't normal. But then it was really only after, I think it was the 2nd or the 3rd time, I went to go and see this woman because my husband was like, you're obviously not coping. And she was the same woman who just looked into my soul. She went to at that point, I mean, this is like the grace of God, really, because she said to me at that point when I saw her at the beginning of the year, if you ever want to come and chat, we can have coffee, we can talk. And so I went to her under the illusion that was what I was doing. But actually she's a therapist, and I was going to therapy.
Right.
And I went to go and see her, and pretty much the 2nd or the 3rd time I saw her, she was like, yeah, you're definitely suffering with postnatal depression and this and the other. And I just was like, well, my world just pretty much fell apart. But yeah.
And when we've talked about this before, you said, so you were diagnosed, but then it was still a really long time before you started talking openly with people.
Quite a while. I think my family, how to talk about this? My parents are very involved in the leadership of the church. My dad led the church for my whole life. He just stepped down a couple of years ago, and we never had I still went to the church that he led, and was, in many ways he was my dad and he was my pastor, and the same with my mum, and and there was no common language around mental health. Common language around spirituality till the cows came home. And the two, I think, got quite muddied. And I think that although I understood what I'd been diagnosed with, and I began to understand, oh, hang on a second, this is illness.
Right, it's not a spiritual issue. It's a physical issue.
But for the last 10 years, it had been dealt with. Whenever I'd been brave enough to say anything about it, it had been dealt with as though it was a spiritual issue.
Right.
And so I think it took me quite a while. I needed to process it myself. I must spoke to my husband. We talked about it straight away. But I didn't know anybody who had depression. I didn't know suffering with anxiety was even a thing. I thought anxiety was you got nerves before a test. That's anxiety. I just had no knowledge, and so I had to do quite a lot of educating myself. And it was quite a few months before I told a friend of mine. And then even then, it was probably another 6-9 months before I would talk about it, sort of a bit more openly. Not quite quickly. I learned that I could tell myself, it took a while to remind myself, but I could learn that I didn't need to be ashamed, but I just didn't have the capacity to deal with other people's issues with it. And I think I recognised that subconsciously, that I don't have the capacity for your stress about this. So I deal with my own issues, and also, the main advice that initially that I got was you need to disappear for a while. You need to come out of all the responsibilities that you've got. I was doing everything in church, and I just had responsibility till the cows came home. And pretty much the first thing that my therapist persuaded me to do, or suggested repeatedly that I do, was to give up leading a small group, give up going to a small group. She's in our church, this woman, by the way, before you think this is just someone, whatever. Probably don't go to church, unless you really want to, but even then be careful, because I have such a strong good girl mentality, such a massive people-pleasing mentality that I needed to work through, and still working through. Yeah. So I needed to be careful that what I thought I wanted was actually still good for me. So because of those things, I kind of disappeared. I didn't see as many people as I had used to, so it was easier to not tell people, because I wasn't there.
Right. So you weren't keeping this massive secret among people. You were just kind of taking a step back and quiet. Yeah, very much so. Very much so.
I did tell one family member, and the response I got was, it was amazing, because it was nothing. Not like, oh, love, that's really hard, or I'm really sorry that you've really struggled, and not well, I don't think, no. It was just and then the conversation moved on, and I was just a bit yeah, I don't think I'm going to talk about this with you guys yet.
That's very English of them.
Yeah, we do that really well.
Yeah.
I don't. I'm let it all hang out.
Right.
Here it is, my whole life. Let me tell you everything about me.
Yeah.
It was weird to not be like that, because I've always been that kind of a person. I've always been, let me share, and I'm going to overshare, and then can I tell you some more things? And it's whoa, okay, that's enough about you.
That's funny. I would love to connect with you, and the best way to do that is to find me on social media. You can find me anywhere on social media at Becky L. McCoy. Join my email list at beckylmccoy.com. That's the best way to get updates on when there are new events or new just projects or things going on. So I'd really love to get to know you better. We just started the Brave Together Facebook group, and it's just going to be, it's already a really neat place just to gather together and work through hard things together, but also have fun and be silly, and just a safe place to be who you are. and maybe even discover who that is. So I hope that you will join us in the Brave Together Facebook group and find me on social media. So you went to therapy, even if you were kind of fooled into going. Is that
money I have ever spent? Best money I have ever spent.
Yeah. What else did getting help look like for you?
Well, I think it's really multi-layered, isn't it? So the therapy was and is, I would say, the most important thing that I did. But I would say that if anyone listens to this is thinking, oh, but I went to go and see so-and-so and it didn't work and it was terrible, then I'd say, well, you just haven't found the right person or the right method, because I do think that it's like, it's almost dating. You have to find the right, the person who clicks with you. And I know people who've had really negative experiences, so I know that it's not, always fantastic. And then quite quickly, my therapist suggested that I went to the doctor and get some antidepressants. And I was still breastfeeding my son. And she said, she was like, you need to stop breastfeeding. Well, she didn't. She was lovely. She suggested that maybe this would be one less thing that I could do if I decided to stop breastfeeding, but I just couldn't countenance doing that. I just felt like that would be even more of a failure if I did that. So she said to me, well, in her words, well, I'll have to give you the Carver and not the champagne of antidepressants then, because you can't have the champagne in your breastfeed.
Right.
So I did that. So I started taking those, and I took them for about a year and a half. And my therapist described me really flatteringly as a bucket. And she said, like, basically, this is how she described depression to me. She was like, most people, we live our life and we should have a bucket of water which is full, and we give to people out of the overflow. And then sometimes you have a stressful time and the bucket gets rocked and the water slips out the edge and you have not quite enough. Mm-hmm. So you rest or you do some things that you like and the bucket gets filled up again. And then she went and said to me, your bucket is bone dry.
Yeah,
She's like, there's so many years worth of, serving other people. And I'm a massive empath. So I always, always want to connect with people and hear what they're going through and try and help. And and so she said, like, you're going to do all the good things. You're going to close down. You're going to not do as many things you've done before. You're going to, give up some responsibility. But the antidepressants are going to help you slowly refill the bucket while you're doing that. And you need that help, which made sense to me. And I was like, yeah, I get that. Mm-hmm. So I took them for about a year and a half, and it was good. And then I came off them, and that was fine until it wasn't fine. And then we had some other stuff happen in our family, and my husband and his family and his business and blah, 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 life, stress. And I don't think that I was ever fully stable after coming off the antidepressants. I think I had good times and not so good times. I was like managing, but it wasn't brilliant. I didn't feel like I could trust myself to be well. It was still very rocky. Yeah. And like maybe 2 years ago, I remember just saying to my husband, I just feel like I'm constantly on the edge of a whirlpool, and I'm like looking in, and I'm holding back and don't fall, and then I'm looking in, and then I'm holding, and it felt like anxiety was like the whole time, and I just felt like I was circling the pool all the time, like, is today going to be the day when I fall in, or just always managing. And I went to see my my therapist just after Christmas, so not this year, the year before. I was telling her about it, and genuinely without thinking, I said, I just wish there was like a pill I could take and it would all go away. And she looked at me and she was like, well,
I have some good news for you.
Not like it's all going to go away. Like, I didn't think that. And it felt like quite a big decision. The first time around, it was like, oh, well, I've had a bit of a breakdown. I'm not well. I need to take drugs to get better. And then I'll come off them and I'll be all better again. Right. And this time it was more of a like, okay, actually, I think I just need this. Mm-hmm. And it was the first couple of weeks of going on them was really rough, actually. I was really all over the place. I actually didn't realise. I think I actually had the flu at the same time. Ooh. But because I just started taking the drugs, I thought it was the drugs. Mm-hmm. So I was like totally freaking out. Mm-hmm. But then after about 2 weeks, it calmed down. And within a month, I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't thought about being anxious for like a day. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't think about it at all this week. And then, gradually I just built the confidence to be like, oh, I can make plans. And then when it comes to the plans, I'm going to be okay with the plans. And so that's just over 18 months, 20 months I've been on them now. And I have no intention of coming off them.
Yeah.
Just I think, I'm sure this isn't the science of it, but my anxiety, often first thing in the morning, I'd wake up and my heart would be pounding, too much adrenaline, mouthful of saliva, feeling like, like I had to really hold it together first thing. I'd be shaky first thing. And then like the adrenaline would like calm throughout the day. And by like 4 o'clock, I'd be like, what was I worried about this morning? Everything's fine. And then the next morning, again.
All over again.
And that just doesn't happen. Very, very rarely happens anymore. And just feel like whatever it is that the antidepressant is doing, it's managing my adrenaline levels. And I'm sure that's not the science, but that seems to be the result of it. And that just means that I just feel like me, and I can do stuff. And
that's exactly how I explain it to people. Like when I talk about going on meds, like, I did not want to go on medication. That was the last thing that I wanted to do. But then once I finally got to that point where there were just no other choices and I did it, then all of a sudden I was like, wow, I don't think I felt this securely myself since I was like maybe 4 years old, because my panic attack started in kindergarten, but they were just labeled as being emotional. And then it was medication that like, oh, this is me. Okay, cool. Nice to meet you again.
And certain members of my family have asked me on a regular basis, so are you still on antidepressants? I've kind of said to them, there's no point asking me. I tell you what, if I come off them, I'll tell you, because I probably need you to pray. But you don't need to keep asking.
Or just ask them, like, do you expect someone with, like, high blood pressure or diabetes to just, like, stop taking their medication?
Just give it a break right now. It's like, no. So yeah, and I even said to my husband, this weekend I took my daughter, 13-year-old daughter, to the Harry Potter studio tours in London. So that's like a 3-hour drive there. That's when you're driving really fast. And a 4-hour drive home when you're not driving quite so fast, and a day in a place that I've never been before, eating food in cafes and from service stations, and not knowing my way around or what the weather will be like, or not being able to control any of it. I didn't even think about it. I just got up on Saturday and looked on the sat nav and we went. It wasn't a stress, whereas, oh my word, like 2 years ago, one, I would never have booked it because I wouldn't have been able to cope with it. I knew it would have sent me, and if I had booked it, I would have stressed about it for probably a month beforehand. I'd been incredibly anxious in the morning. I probably would have been ill in the morning. And then I probably wouldn't have eaten the whole day. And that would have been, and I would have been emotionally just not very present because I didn't have the capacity to be emotionally present. I was dealing with all this crap, So I said to my husband, and we got back on Saturday night and I was properly exhausted because it's a really long day.
Yeah.
I was like, but it was great. It was fine. It was fun. I was like, imagine, who am I? What's going on? Because he got so used to me being,
paranoid and anxious.
Yeah.
So do you feel like you understand, like, your triggers and can you kind of notice if you start to slip back to, like, the dark place?
Yeah. I mean, I had, I think there were sort of big triggers and there were little triggers, aren't there? So, like, my big triggers that would send me off, for some time and take me a while to recover. Obviously, there are things that you can't control, like life events and stuff. But if I'm too busy regularly, like in a sustained way, or I have too much commitment or too much responsibility, I'm not well. And I was thinking about this even last night, that I still have to remind myself that it's okay to say, this is my capacity, any more than that, and like, you won't get anything good from me, and it will actually not be good for me.
Right.
And I think that especially in the Christian world and the church world, there's a sense of, well, if you've got the time physically in your day, and like all my kids are at school now, so like I should have a greater capacity for, I don't know, serving in XYZ capacity.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, no, because my capacity is this, and it's smaller than you think it is, and it's smaller than I think it is half the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to make sure that I have scheduled in time, like blank space time, time of just like nothing, like doing the chores, but with no like agenda, or just taking time over eating my lunch rather than bolting it down and getting on to the next thing. Or if I don't do that regularly, if I put too much in my week, it will make me ill.
Margin. Have you read that book? Margin?
Margin. No, I haven't.
Oh, you would love it.
And again, yeah. I feel like I've got quite good at it, and then like even this weekend doing the Harry Potter thing on Saturday, and then on Sunday I bought a ticket to go to this like women's networking thing that I'd never been to before with my sister, and they were both great. I had a great weekend, but yesterday I got up, I went to the gym, I came back, I sat at my desk, I started working, and by like 2:00 I was like just falling over.
Yeah.
Did the school run, and I was talking to one of the mums, and then she said, "Well, what did you do on the weekend?" And I told her, and she just looked at me and she went, "That's probably why you're tired." And I was like, "Oh yeah," but I just don't. I have like a really short memory for these things. So like, unless I like write, sometimes I have to go like, I don't feel very well today. Let's just go back and look at my diary for the last week, see if there's a reason there, and then I'll usually go, "Oh yeah, the kids were up in the night that night, and then that happened, and that happened, and that happened, and I didn't sleep well then, and my husband was really stressed about this, and then I was too busy." It's like, oh, right, okay, it's not rocket science, Ellie. Right. So, like, that's one of the things that will make me ill, and I still think that I probably have still got a slight trigger in terms of, like, illness. So, I wouldn't choose to watch a film, for example, about something that was to do with the subject matter that would have made me anxious in the past. Even though I probably would be fine now, I'm just like, well, why would you risk it?
Yeah,
like,
why bother? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and too much caffeine, because of the adrenaline thing, too much caffeine can send me a bit doolally as well. Like, I'm a big tea drinker,
of course.
But if I have more than 4 cups a day, which I recognise is quite a lot, but I could easily drink 8.
Oh, I didn't think there was anything wrong with that.
I don't drink coffee, but if I have 2 cups of coffee, I'm like totally wired. So I have to be careful of that. And I think also like we have to just be willing to be gracious with ourselves. That some weeks are just tougher weeks, like emotionally, and can't always pinpoint why. And to just
whether
be like,
you struggle with mental illness or not.
Yeah, exactly.
Harder than others.
It's okay. It's okay to just say today's just been a bit of a crappy day, and I'm just going to go to bed early, and it will be better tomorrow.
That's right. So what do you need most, like when you are in in the dark place, or like in a more anxious or depressive state? What is most helpful for you? What encourages you through those times?
I have a few phrases that I didn't realise that I use often for other people, and I have to apply them to myself.
Yeah.
So, and I use them a lot in writing on the blog and stuff. And somebody else actually had to say to me, these are your sayings now. This is like people actually go, it's like Elli says, like it's okay to say no, or like someone actually said the other day they were being asked to do something from school, and she just went, "I just did an Elli Johnson and said no." I was like, yes, come on, I feel so proud of you. But I have to remind myself that it's okay to let myself off the hook. Like, that's a major one for me. Like, let yourself off the hook. Like, you didn't make a home-baked meal tonight. Like, you didn't manage to, I don't know, whatever, exercise 3 times this week. So, it's okay. Remind ourselves that the expectations they're not real things. It's like just a construct, and we don't have to abide by those. And often I've created them myself, and I often remind myself. Another one of my things is like take the easy option. So like my husband will sometimes say to me, my husband will often be the one to say to me, "You don't need to do that. Are you sure you want to book that in?" Like if someone says, "Would you like to do X, Y, Z?" even if it's a thing I really like doing.
Mm-hmm.
If my diary is already quite full, sometimes my husband will go, just think about that. Just think about that for a few minutes, and there'll be another opportunity. Like, it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to do it today or this week. Like, just say no to that. That's okay.
Right.
So if I'm in a dark place, I need to make sure that I've got some space. I need to be able to cancel things. And I think friends who get that are worth their weight in gold.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've got a friend who, we're going to the theatre in a couple of weeks in Manchester. And the day after that, I have a really important meeting, and which has been in the diary for a long time. They've both been in the diary for a long time. And she said to me on Friday, like, I know we booked those tickets ages ago, but I know you've got that meeting the next day that is really important. I don't want you to stress about this. You can cancel at any time. Like, just cancel on me an hour before. It's fine. Like, don't worry about it. And that just, firstly, it's really empowering, but also it just makes me feel much more relaxed. Like, okay, I'm not going to let anybody down. I'm not, friends who get that when you're in a dark place, or even if you have to withdraw, and just say, I'm really sorry, I just need some space. Friends who'll go, totally fine, totally get it, absolutely brilliant, do it. I had a friend say to me, her and her husband and her 3 kids were coming for lunch after church the other week, and she'd just started a new job, and she came up to me and she went, crying, I'm really sorry, I just can't make it, I'm too stressed out with work. And I was like, I'm so proud of you. Go home and have a sleep. Like, this is amazing. Because she's like a real, serves everybody else. And I was like, seriously? Go and get a coffee and go and watch a box set. Your husband and the kids can come, and you just go and do that. And I think people giving you permission to do that. I think, especially as a mum, and as a woman, to be honest, I think we set the bar high for ourselves, and other people set the bar high for us. So other people say to us, like, let's just forget about the bar. Like, let's just eat pizza in our PJs. It's fine.
Right.
Or just don't come. Don't worry about it. Like, we can do it again another time. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, this is not the only opportunity.
No. And, and I think the other things that help you get better are kind of the obvious things that we talk about a lot, like exercise. Like, for me, exercise isn't like, I do go to a gym, but I need to be outside. Mm-hmm. I need to, I walk by the river near our house. And when I was really not good, I would walk every day. Like, my husband would come home from work, I would like tag team him, be like, all right, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
I can leave the kids. And then I would go and walk for like 40 minutes, often with a friend, and we just chat about nothing. But it was just being outside, moving, going, okay. And and I do, when I was really not good, I would use meditation as well. I had a number of meditation apps that I would use regularly. There's an app called Calm. It's like blue background with white writing on it. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure if you just looked it up on the App Store, you'd find it. That's a really good app, and Headspace is a really good app. And I've used both of those, and I don't do them. My husband does them daily. My husband has also suffered with his mental health in the last couple of years. And for him, he daily meditates because it's just what he needs to do. And he'll say to me sometimes, like even this morning, he didn't sleep well last night. He was worrying about work in the night. And so he woke up and he was like, before I get up, headphones in, did like a 10-minute meditation. Okay, I'm calm, everything, I can carry on with the day. Mm-hmm. And I don't really do it regularly now, but if I wake up in the night panicking, I'll do it. Just, without headphones, we'll just do it because you learn how to do it quite quickly. Or if I'm having a particularly anxious day or moment, I'll be like, if I've got the volition to do it, if I remember, because when you're anxious, you're like, woo, I don't remember anything. You have to like write it down. Oh yeah, I need to do that now. Yeah. But then if I'll sit down and go, okay, 10 minutes. And then generally afterwards, things just feel a bit more settled, a bit more calm, can see a bit more clearly. It's not an instant fix, but I think for me, it feels like I'm taking back control as opposed to spiraling off somewhere. Even if I still feel anxious afterwards, I feel like, okay, but I did that, and that was a good thing to do. And I feel like I can be quite pleased with myself for doing that. So there's like a self-esteem thing as well, I suppose. Yeah. Is that a question? I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay.
So if you were talking with someone who is struggling right now, what would you want them to know?
I'd want to say that it's okay. Like, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think we worry that I think when you first start struggling, you feel like you're a failure because of it,
Mm-hmm.
and that things are never going to get better.
Mm-hmm.
And both of those things are lies. Like, it might not ever be. You might not never ever get to a point where you're living medication free and you never battle with anxiety, but it will be better than it has been.
Mm-hmm.
And you will learn to cope with it. And actually, you might even find there's some good in it as well. But also that it's no reflection on your personhood, on who you are, on the gifts that you have to give, on the on who you are as a person. It's no reflection on your worth. I think it's a real battle not to still think, even with all the education and the blah 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 that there is. I think we still believe that it's somehow a reflection on us. Mm-hmm. It's our fault. We're weak. We should have done more. We could have prevented it if we were stronger, if we persevered more, if we prayed harder, if we had more faith, if we were holier, And I want to say something like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Mm-hmm. Like, one, it's not your fault. Mm-hmm. Two, it's no reflection on you. You're not a weak person. Generally, the more I read about it, I find that it's actually really strong people who end up suffering with depression because they've kept going for such a long time.
Right.
Managing everything. I'm reading a book about it at the moment, actually. Can't remember what it's called, maybe there somewhere. And that is really, really clear in that actually the people who end up with a diagnosis are because they've pushed themselves so hard for so long. Mm-hmm. So actually, rather than it being something that weak people suffer with, it's actually often something that people who are really competent and capable suffer with because they push themselves too far and then the elastic breaks.
Right.
And I'd want to say to them, like, it's time to look after yourself for a while and to stop prioritising everybody else and to let yourself off the hook, to think about all the easy options that you can take in your life and to ask for help. Mm-hmm. But to let yourself off the hook with all that as well. So, like, it's okay. Just do today and then worry about tomorrow.
Yeah.
And do what you can do. Take your time.
Yeah, for sure.
I didn't feel like a very thought through answer to that question, but...
Oh, no, I thought it was wonderful. So Elli and I met through a writing group that we're in, and Elli does a lot of writing with depression and mental illness. So why don't you let everyone know where they can find you online to kind of...
Okay, so my blog has a bit of a weird name. It's called The Hippo Chronicles, and you can find it at www.thehippochronicles.com, as in the hippo as in an animal, and it's like the chronicles of the hippo's life. And it's nothing to do with me feeling like I look like a hippo. There's a story in there that explains it. It's about learning to cope with failure. But yeah, so you can find me at thehippochronicles.com, and I'm on Facebook as well. And yeah, just pop over there. I regularly write about mental health and anxiety in particular.
Mm-hmm. Well, thanks so much for sharing about your story. Before we go, I have a couple fun questions to ask you.
Okay.
So no wrong answers, just whatever pops out of your mouth is good. What are you loving right now?
What am I loving right now? We've just started watching the third series of Peaky Blinders. I don't know if Peaky Blinders is in the States. Is that a thing? Do you know Peaky Blinders?
Well, I love all things BBC, so yeah, it's... For me, it's a thing. I don't know about anybody else.
Set in Birmingham in the 1920s, and half of it was filmed just down the road. So it filmed in Liverpool, set in Birmingham. I'm loving that. And I'm loving Parks and Recreation and Catastrophe. Have you seen Catastrophe?
No, I haven't.
It's not like I only love telly. Oh no, quick, think of something else.
Oh, no, that's fine. It's whatever comes to mind right now.
I'm also loving anything dungaree based. Anything with a pinafore top. Everything I wear is basically dungarees and stripes. That's all I own. That's it. The end. Yeah.
That's funny. What is your favorite meal, snack, or food?
I like tapas. I like anything salty, olives, cheese, blue cheese, especially with red wine.
What are you doing to take care of yourself?
Cancelling things,
That's a great answer.
Cancelling things, and what else am I doing to take care of myself? I don't know. I booked myself a haircut, and I'm going to book myself I went to this amazing salon on Sunday for this networking thing, and they did this treatment, and it was like a head massage and an inhalation, and you can have a pedicure, and then while your toes are being done, they do that. I'm going to book that for next week.
Yes, that sounds incredible.
That's a good way to take care of myself.
Yeah. And what are you doing to be brave?
Well, trying to monetize what I do for a living. It feels like quite a brave thing to do. Maybe not very sexy, but it's quite brave. I'm meeting a publisher in like 2 weeks because I wrote a book.
Yes.
No.
That's awesome.
Yeah. That's what I'm doing to be brave. I'm wearing bright red lipstick. That always feels quite brave.
Ooh, I love red lipstick.
Me too.
Well, thanks so much, Elli, for being part of this series. And yeah, I really appreciate your vulnerability and willingness to share everything.
I don't know any other way to be.
Next week on Sucker Punched, I'll be talking with my friend Lauren Gaskell about her experience with anxiety, and that'll be the last episode of the mental health or mental illness series. So you can always go back and find information. There's a post for each episode on my website, beckylmccoy.com, and you can get information there. You can go back through wherever you listen to your podcasts. And while you're there, if you can just take a second to rate and review the podcast, it helps people to find the podcast. It helps future guests have just randomly found the podcast because of people's ratings and reviewing and whatnot. And just make sure you subscribe, and that way the new episodes will always just pop up. You don't have to remember to go and check. I hope you have a wonderful week and weekend, and I am looking forward to bringing you my conversation with Lauren next week. Have a great weekend. Sending you hugs and donuts. Bye.